Hello students, today we are going to start the lesson My Impressions of Assam by Verrier Elvin. So let us know something about Verrier Elvin. Dr. Verrier Elvin was born in the year 1902 and he died in the year 1963. And who was he? He was an eminent British author. Eminent means famous British author and anthropologist. So you understand the word anthropology. It is the study of human beings, okay, their past and present, biological characteristics, culture. So he used to study those. He was an anthropologist who made the Northeast his second home. He had a great attraction towards the people of the Northeast, and he made Northeast his second home. His writings on the tribal people of Northeast India show his deep concern for the people of this region. So he has written many times about the people of the Northeast, okay? And this shows his attachment towards this part of India. The following write-up is a talk by him to AIR Guwahati, that is All India Radio Guwahati, taken from the collected works of Satish Chandra Kakoti, edited by Professor Dilip Kumar Kakoti, to whom due acknowledgement is made. So what we are going to study is a talk by him to All India Radio Guwahati, okay, and this is taken from the collected works of Satish Chandra Kakoti, edited by Professor Dilip Kumar Kakoti. So now let us see what he writes about Assam. And he writes of Assam as a whole, the Northeast which we say today. At that time when he visited Assam was undivided. All the 7 states or sisters were together. Okay, so he gives us an account of the lives of the people of the Northeast or Assam as a whole. Especially, he tries to throw some light on the tribal people. Okay, let us see what is his impression of Assam. Okay, students, let us start the lesson. It has been said that you know all about a country after staying in it either for a fortnight or for 20 years. I have now lived in India, which is my home and my love, for a quarter of a century, but I feel I know very little about it. On the other hand, I have spent at various times about 4 months in Assam, and so naturally I know everything about it. And perhaps it may be of interest to you to have a few impressions from an unconventional traveler about what he has seen of your lovely land. So this is said by Verrier Elvin. He says that yes, he has been a part of India, and he says that you need either 14 days or maximum 20 years to know about a place. And he had lived in India, which is his home and also his love. That means he had a special attraction for India, okay, for a quarter of a century. Quarter of a century means 25 years, okay. But I feel I know very little about it. But the irony is that he says that he does not know much about it. On the contrary, he had stayed in Assam for how long? For 4 months, only 4 months, but he says that he knows a lot about this place. And perhaps it may be of interest to you to have a few impressions from an unconventional traveler. He calls himself an unconventional traveler. Unconventional means not following the conventions. Why? Because he is an anthropologist. And who is an anthropologist? Anthropologist is a person who studies about human beings, customs, traditions, their past, present, and he had come to this land to study about the people, okay, especially the hill tribes of Assam. And he is talking here of the entire Northeast, the undivided Northeast, okay, and so he calls it Assam. And so he is also attached to the people of this land. That is why he is not like the other travelers, okay, about what he has seen of your lovely land. So he gives some impressions or some comments about this land. Going on to the next page now. Continuing. For I must admit that ever since I have been here, I have been a man under an enchantment. So enchantment means under a spell. So he says that from the time he had been in Assam, he was fascinated by everything around him. Okay, as a sort of poet and artist, it is said that he was a poet also and artist. As a sort of poet and artist, I have always loved and sought for beauty, and here in Assam, I have been intoxicated with the delight of the natural scene, the grace and charm of the people, and also with a certain beauty in human relationship. This is a beautiful line. Here he praises the land of Assam and says that Assam is famous for what? Natural beauty. You can see for yourself how beautiful our land is. Go to Shillong, Meghalaya, go to Arunachal Pradesh, Northeast, and there are so many poems and so many songs praising the beauty of the Northeast. You don't have to go to any other place to enjoy the beautiful scenery, the cascade of water, the waterfalls, the lakes, the rivers. It goes on and on. We cannot just say in words or express in words about the beauty of our place. So he praises the natural beauty of Assam and says that he was under a spell, he was intoxicated, and by the beauty of the natural scene and the grace and charm of the people. He says that people are very charming, very friendly, very courteous, very polite, and even with strangers they have a very cordial relationship, and also with a certain beauty in human relationship. This is something which he observed only in Assam. He said that people are very friendly towards everyone they meet. They know how to value relationship, which is a rare thing found in Assam. This may surprise you, but although I have traveled in many countries, I have never found so much courtesy. Courtesy means politeness, good manners and friendliness in ordinary people, from shopkeepers, from the chap you asked away on the road, from officials, and above all from the hill folk as I have here. So he says no matter to which strata of the society you belong, whether you are a shopkeeper, whether you are the highest official, you have the same friendly nature, you have the same politeness and courtesy towards everyone you meet in this strange land. He says that even if they meet strangers, the people of Assam greet them with so much of warmth in their hearts. Like we have the habit that even if somebody asked a way, then what we do, if it is a hot weather, what we do, we say, come and sit at our place, have a glass of water, we offer tamul pan. All these are part of our tradition and culture, isn't it? So we are actually known to the people as a land of courtesy and friendliness. And Warrior Alvin was really shocked and amazed to see the people here, how friendly they are. In ordinary people, from shopkeepers, from the chap you asked away. This line was done. From the hill folk, especially he studies the hill people. Here now that tradition of hospitality means friendliness. Hospitality, how you treat your guests and also strangers, and friendliness is a great and precious thing. Precious means a priceless possession that we have. It is unhappily a rare thing in this modern world of competition and rivalry and hurry. So in this world of competition, what are we doing? We are trying to pull the others down and rise up the ladder of success, isn't it? We have so much of hatred for our neighbors, for our friends, even for our friends. We want to be the supreme, we want to be the best. But in this land of Assam, he says that even when the rest of the world are fighting with each other, busy in their own world of competition, here the simple hilly people or the people of Assam are so much full of warmth in their hearts for even the strangers that they meet. But you have it, and I hope you will never lose it. So he says that you have this rare thing which people in the rest of the world do not have. So why don't you preserve it? You preserve it as a treasure and you never lose it. Okay, he gives advice to the people of Assam. He tells us that we have a rare thing and we must keep it as a priceless possession. Clear? One of the things that excited me very much soon after my arrival in Assam was a visit to the Kaziranga Game Reserve. Kaziranga Game Reserve. Now it is known as Kaziranga Wildlife Sanctuary. Earlier it was known as Kaziranga Game Reserve. I think most of you have visited it, and Kaziranga Game Reserve is famous for what? The one-horn rhino. Last year I went to East Africa, and there for 2 months I spent a lot of time in the famous game sanctuaries, and although I had the rather dubious privilege of being chased by an angry maternal hippopotamus, I did not succeed in seeing a single rhino. So he talks about the game sanctuaries of Africa. Okay, there he stayed there, and he did not get the chance to see a rhino. But what happened? Dubious means doubtful. Okay, privilege means opportunity. So he was chased by a hippopotamus, an angry hippopotamus. Okay, yet here in Assam, within a couple of hours, I managed to see a dozen rhinos. 12 rhinos he saw in Assam within a couple of hours, within 2 hours. Okay, I managed to see a dozen rhinos, some of them irritable, very annoying, like they were full of irritation, whom we avoided. So they tried to avoid those rhinos because they might attack them. One, at least, a charming old fellow, that means an old rhino, charming, very charming, whom I was able to get down from my elephant and photograph. So he was elephant safari, you know, jeep safari, elephant safari. He was going on an elephant and he happened to see that rhino, and he got down from that elephant and clicked photo with that rhino. Clear? Okay. But I must confess, I was struck by the difference between the game sanctuaries of Kenya and Tanganyika and yours in East Africa. There is a sort of tradition that everybody should cooperate to make the sanctuaries a success. A lot of money is spent on them. No one would dream of poaching, and what a wonderful result is achieved. So he makes a comparison between the game sanctuaries of Africa and the game sanctuaries of India, or in Assam in particular. Okay, he says that in Africa, people really work for the success of these game sanctuaries. They spend a lot of money for the maintenance and betterment. Then they also cooperate among themselves for the upkeep and maintenance of these game sanctuaries. And they never ever think of illegally stealing those animals or killing them for their profit or for their benefit. They never do such things. And a wonderful result is achieved there. And you see, the animals also feel quite safe there. You can see in a brief drive in your car hundreds of giraffes, zebras, ostriches, wild elephants, and even lions wandering about near the roads in perfect confidence that the odd two-legged creature called man was their friend. So this is a very significant line. So he says that the animals there in Africa have the belief or have the faith in the odd two-legged creature. Two-legged creature here means man, that they are friends. Man and animals, they are friends. Okay, and so they move about freely. When you drive in your car, you have a long drive, and you go along, you see many animals of different kinds, okay, on the roads. Why? Because they know that there is no poaching, nobody will kill them, and they feel safe. They are not scared to roam about on the streets. But this is ironically not the case in our country. There is so much of poaching, rhino poaching. You all know, you are acquainted with this word. In the news also, we have heard so many times about rhino poaching and all. But this has not completely stopped, and it is really a very pitiable sight, and it's really a very sad thing that animals are killed, and especially in a country like India, Okay, we are actually so much into non-violence and a country where we worship animals and all these things should not happen. Okay, but it is happening. The animals are not altogether sure that they are safe. Yes, in India, they do not feel safe. In Assam, they do not feel safe. They do not appear so readily. The public does not cooperate in the same way. We are also not conscious to work for the maintenance of these game sanctuaries. We also do not cooperate. We actually are responsible for the present condition of these wildlife sanctuaries. And surely there is something wrong in that. After all, most of the East Africans are carnivorous, violent people. Here in India, we are traditionally wedded to non-violence. So look at this line, a comparison between the people of India and the people of Africa. Carnivorous means, you all know, herbivorous and carnivorous, flesh eating, okay, carnivorous. So he says that most of the people are very crude. There it is said carnivorous, violent people. Okay, violence. And here in India, we are traditionally wedded to non-violence. A country where Mahatma Gandhi lived, he preached non-violence to us and to a real sense of brotherhood with animals. So it is very strange that staying in a country like India, where non-violence should be our motto, we kill animals. They are not like our brothers. Brotherhood with animals is a rare sight in India, whereas in Africa, the people are so crude, violent, savage, still they love the animals so much, and animals also move about the streets. Why? Because they are not afraid of man. And so I venture to appeal to everybody to buck up the game sanctuaries. Buck up here means to encourage, to support, okay, at Kaziranga and elsewhere. So he makes an appeal, request to every one of us that people kindly be good enough, kind enough, and take the initiative to work for the betterment of these game sanctuaries and take care of the animals. Okay, don't kill them, give up poaching, and to make a real success of them. There are some things to be proud of. It is a grand thing to see creatures of the wild feeling safe even in civilization. So he says that our country is a civilized country. A grand thing to see creatures of the wild, referring to animals. So we are civilized people. We are a civilized nation. So let us be civilized in the true sense of the term. Why kill animals? If we kill animals, can we call ourselves civilized? Let the animals feel safe even in our country, even in civilization. There the people are said to be violent in Africa, but the animals feel so safe. Why can't the animals feel safe in civilization in our country? Let us do something for them. Okay.